Greetings loved ones and welcome back to my channel. In today's video, you can read the title, okay? I have a couple of things to address before I get into this. First things first, I am wearing a shirt that says Virginity Rocks. To be ironic, but not because I dislike virgins, okay? If you're a virgin, hats off to you. Nothing to be ashamed about in any way, shape, or form. I'm just wearing this shirt to be silly today because it's making me feel like a sex ed teacher. Also, because I just said the S word, this video could get demonetized. Yes, that is reality. So if you want to go and subscribe to me on Patreon, I wouldn't mind. In fact, I encourage it. You can support my earnings for this month there. I felt like I really had to make this video, so if it does get demonetized, that's all right. I got my Patreon peeps, okay? Even if you pledge me $1, I put out stuff on there multiple times a week, so yeah. Also, I feel like I look like Prison Mike today, you know, Michael Scott's character in The Office when he wears the do-rag, and I don't really know how to feel about it, but I also kind of like it, so just gonna get that out of the way in case any of you wanted to comment about it. Now, let's get into the topic of this video, which is the problem with sex education in public schools. For some reason, yesterday, I graduated high school damn near 6 years ago, but for some reason, I got so fired up about this issue last night, and I took to Instagram, and I asked you guys on there, basically just if things have changed in regards to talking about queer sex in sex education programs. And I'm just gonna read you guys some of the responses that I got back. For the most part, certainly not. They're still teaching outdated or through a religious bias. They barely mentioned gay sex. It barely even covered straight sex. A lot of people said I didn't even have a sex education program, but for the most part, all I got was nope, not at all responses. I got like 2 or 3 responses that said yes, or they briefly touched on it, like, hey, and people have gay sex. Moving on. Okay, so any questions? Like, that's just pretty much what it was. And the lack of queer representation in high school sex education systems drove me to make this video, but it also brought to the surface in my mind a lot of things that were left out in my sex education program. So today I'm just going to be talking about those things, and hopefully some of you can relate, because I feel like even in America, you know, you would think that people are progressive or like we have a good education program. We don't. For a lot of states, it is relatively non-existent, and it also very much so depends on your health teacher, like what they want to cover. I'm sure that some teachers just felt very uncomfortable and grazed over things. And there's this clip in the movie Mean Girls where Coach Carr is teaching his health class, and I just feel like a lot of us can relate to having our health teacher act this way, so I'm just gonna play them for you now.
Don't have sex, because you will get pregnant and die. Don't have sex in the missionary position. Don't have sex standing up. Just don't do it, promise? Okay, everybody take some rubbers. At your age, you're gonna be having a lot of urges. You're gonna wanna take off your clothes and touch each other. But if you do touch each other, you will get chlamydia and die.
Oh my God. Honestly, I feel like one of my health teachers in middle school was very much so like this. She was the PE teacher, and then she also had to teach health, which is basically how it goes for most public schools. I mean, I'm sure that there are different cases out there where one sex educator wants to go and teach at a school, but it's very rare for them to allocate the funding for that. But when I was in middle school, my PE teacher was teaching us just a range of things, but mostly just this. Here is a photo of a penis. Here is a photo of a vagina. Here is very graphic photos of every STD you could ever get, ever. Please don't have sex if you don't want to get these STDs. That's the only solution. Or use condoms if you do have the sex. And that was pretty much it. I remember seeing, like, they're burned into my memory, those like scarring, wart-ridden genitalia. Like, it is just, ooh. It is just a lot for a 12-year-old brain. I feel like they could have gone about things very differently, but they did not. And then I feel like once I got to high school, it was just kind of a further extent of the same criteria. Like, hey, so we realized that high schoolers are sexually active, okay? You're gonna get pregnant, all right? So if you don't wanna get pregnant, use birth control. or condoms. And then that was pretty much it. Like, just talking about teen pregnancy was a huge thing. It's very fear driven, and it's really sad to think about, because I was just, you know, going over this in my head last night. Like, there are so many kids who feel comfortable coming out as queer nowadays than there were in my 6 years ago in high school, you know? Like, obviously there were gay people and I knew gay people, but I feel like things have changed a little bit now. I grew up in the South. I grew up in Georgia, so I'm sure that the culture there surrounding acceptance of LGBTQ plus people, it was very different 6 years ago, and we still have ways to go in regards to acceptance, and there are always homophobic people out there who just, you know, can shut their freaking pie holes. But for the most part, I feel like people are just becoming more okay with themselves as high schoolers, you know? Like, the high schoolers who watch me, they're very forward about the things that they like. I get advice questions all the time about sex, and people being like, hey, I'm in high school, but I have a boyfriend and I want to do X, Y, and Z. I wasn't taught this in schools. What should we do? You guys responded really well to my Sextember series that I did last September, where I was just making sex education content. And those are the things that fueled my drive to make this today. But I looked up before this video, basically the statistics of how many kids in high schools are queer, or not just queer, but specifically identify as lesbian, gay, or bisexual. Because for the purpose of this poll, I think that they were trying to figure that out. So it says on QZ.com that they know that 1.3 million kids, or roughly 8% of all high school students in America, report being lesbian, gay, or bi. And to think that 1.3 million kids don't feel represented in their sexual health program makes me so angry. Because like I said, with my sexual health program, it was like, here is a penis, here is a vagina, here is sexual intercourse, in these weird kind of like clip art photos. But there was little to no education on queer sex or anything other than heterosexual missionary sex. Like, that is what we saw, you know? And I'm pretty sure now that in California, they're teaching more about gender identity as well as queer sex and different things on the sexual spectrum, like fetishes and stuff like that. I watched a news clip today when I was researching public education of sexual health on YouTube, and it was like this news anchor just going off at how leftist it was, at how horrible it was. You don't want to put your kids in public school because of fear that they're going to be taught about learning about queer identity and trans people. Like, what? I understand that some people don't have the capacity to talk about those things in their daily lives, but a lot of kids are struggling with those very things, and to stifle it or not address it at all is a huge issue that only makes people more depressed, more anxious, and in turn more suicidal. So that really fueled my like, ooh, I gotta make this video today thing, because I was just gonna make like an I love this stuff video and be like, here's all the things I'm loving this month, you know, which I still like doing those. Haven't done one in a while, probably still will do one, but it didn't feel timely for what was on my mind today. And I just got so fired up, like, why aren't these things covered? I know so many gay people, and to think that in their high schools, they were like, oh, I don't mesh with any of this. They're not talking about how to have safe gay sex. They're not talking about finding consensual connections. They're not talking about things that people are actually experiencing. It's just a huge fear-based model that really needs updating. And to think that once California updated their model, please comment down below if you live in California and are in high school or just recently graduated, because I'm pretty sure in 2019 it came into play that public school was going to introduce to their sexual health programs queer, trans topics, and just all of those types of things. So please let me know down below if you learned about any of those things. I would be very curious about what the model of that teaching was. But this just makes me upset, even though I'm not in high school, because I'm like, okay, what is the solution to this other than, you know, talking to your kids at home? And this is something that is so hard for certain parents to do. I can't even explain to you the amount of comments that I've gotten, or friends that I have in real life who basically told me that they had no sexual education from their own parents, which, you know, I understand that some people don't want to feel obligated to explain that to their children, but I also feel like don't become a parent if you don't have the guts to explain the nature of how they were made. Like, what? And it just makes me reminded that our parents also had a lack of sex education. So I'm sure that some parents felt very uncomfortable with certain topics that maybe weren't discussed, but they're like, okay, now we have a kid, we have to talk about it, X, Y, and Z, we'll say this. Some people are very religious, they just only teach abstinence, and that is their whole sex education, which isn't realistic. It's just not realistic for you to explain to somebody that the only way that they could, you know, be safe from getting pregnant or getting STDs is through abstinence. Like, sure, that is one model of a way to avoid those things, but also practicing safe sex and having communication with your partners about, hey, are you clean? If not, let's go get tested. It's a fun little thing to do. And using condoms and all of these kinds of things, it's like, oof, I just don't understand. I really don't understand why everybody is like tiptoeing around this topic about human nature. So, this being said, this is what I wish my sex education program taught me about consent. I have an entire video about consent, which I will link on the screen. I believe I made it in 2016. And that was after I already had a traumatic event happen to me. And that was when I was like, why wasn't I taught about communication and boundaries and how to tell people no and how to get the fuck out of there if you're in a bad situation? Like, why are we not explained safety in sexual situations? Because I was not. I don't know if that's an updated model in some public school systems. I'm very curious to hear what you guys have to say in the comments. But apart from communicating no means no and yes means yes, and also if it's not a screaming yes, it's probably a no. Anyways, apart from that level of communication, also just communicating what you want to your partners. Like, why isn't that covered? Why isn't there a part of public school sex education where they're like, hey, and if you have a partner and you just want to communicate that you don't really enjoy kissing for this long and you want to move to like a different part, or you want to introduce their hand down there or something like that. This is the ways to actually healthily do that and transition into doing that instead of making somebody scared or feel like they're doing something wrong. So here's some models of how to communicate your needs, you know? So many people struggle with communicating their needs still in their 20s, their late 20s. It's like, why aren't we educating people on this at freaking 14? I don't understand. Because people be having sex. But anyways, I also feel like it should cover finding a fitting partner and how to communicate, just like I was saying before with communicating your needs, communicating that maybe you don't want to be doing that with that person, or how to say, hey, I'm not just really meshing with you in this way, but I like you as a friend. Those are great tips. Also, anal and oral tips, these were very skimmed over in my sex ed program. Like, they just existed, you know? And people have anal sex, people have oral sex, and you can get STDs from that too. Like, that was just the whole model right there in a summary. And I get multiple questions about anal sex when it comes to my DMs and the comments on my videos. And this is something that I definitely was not educated on. It was more of like also a fear-based thing, not, hey, some people get pleasure out of anal sex who aren't gay men. Just kidding, they would never even address gay men at all in my sex ed program, but that's, you know, the topic that I was just discussing. It was like never covered on how to go about that with your partner. Why was lube never discussed? That's what I want to know. It's really just so overwhelming when I think about it, like how many things were glazed over. Also, just talking about asexuality and how some people might not even want to have sex. Like, it is just the assumption of the sex education programs that we are maybe immersed in, to just assume that people are going to have sex that will only be straight sex apparently, and then they will get pregnant because they didn't use a condom, and then they'll get genital warts and it'll be horrible. Like, why is that the norm, to just address all of those things rather than being like, hey, and asexual people exist as well, and there's also a whole spectrum around that. Why aren't we talking about the huge spectrum that is sexual identity? Like, it really just grinds my gears. So I guess just why I'm making this video is to open up a discussion in the comments down below on what your sexual health program entailed, if you even had one, what you wish they would have educated you on, because I know I have a lot of wishes in that regard, but now we just learned about them from media, which is also, I guess, fine, because there are some really good programs out there like Sex Education on Netflix. Please watch that amazing show. They cover so much from fetish play to queer sex to all of these different things, such as talking about consent and bondage and like different things that people might like and how to communicate that to your partner. It's just a great freaking show. Obviously, there are nice sex educators on YouTube that you can watch as well. I personally love Shan Boudram. She doesn't always just talk about sex either. She also talks about relationships and love and all of these different kind of things. So she's my bae. Love her so much. Also, Hannah Witten talks about these things, and I'm sure that there's a handful of great sex educators out there on YouTube too that you can comment down below if I missed out on anybody. Those are just two of my favorites that I watch. I digress. This was just something on my mind that I kind of wanted to, I suppose, rant about today in the same kind of format of my school dress code video that I also made in 2016. I was real fired up about that. And I hope that that model has changed on shaming the way that people dress in schools. But honestly, wouldn't be surprised if that model still exists of, hey, if you show your shoulders, boys will get a boner, and it'll be horrible. So please, 2-finger straps, at least. Oh, anyways, please comment down below any of your thoughts on this matter. I was just getting so freaking fired up about this topic today and just thinking about like what the world could have been if we had a healthy sex education program. Why is that lacking so hard when we are humans who have sex? Because I'm curious what the even heck happened there. Cancel all outdated sexual health systems immediately. I need to do a reform. Just kidding. I'm not qualified to do that, but multiple people are, so why aren't we introducing them into making the models? It's not that hard, people. Anyways, I could talk about this for a very long period of time, as you probably can tell by the length of this video. So I'm gonna head the heck out. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you enjoyed it and got nice and fired up with me, please give this video a big thumbs up if you enjoyed it. Subscribe to my channel if you're not already. Ring the notifications bell if you wanna be notified when I upload. You can become a patron of mine, again, if you wanna support my earnings for this month. And until my next video, stay smiling. Bye, guys.